Focus 12, current status meets Focus 12. Next quarter target, Masters Focus 15. Vision and Goals 2, the board has adopted goal progress measures, GPMs, aligned to each student outcome goal. Team members Tasha Gore and Greg Hoffman. Quarterly progress, last reported July 18th, 2022. Previous quarter meets Focus 12. Current status meets Focus 12. Next quarter target, Masters Focus 15. Vision and Goals 3, the board has adopted constraints. Team members Tasha Gore and Amber Dady Crafton. Quarterly progress, last reported July 18th, 2022. Previous quarter meets Focus 9. Current status meets Focus 9. Next quarter target is Masters Focus 10.
Okay. So anybody, Amber,
I don't even know where I'm at, so.
visions and goals, 4?
Goals 4, yes.
So this one right here.
This one. Oh, so I read all this?
It just right here.
I've never done this.
Yeah, you're fine, you're fine. We'll walk you through it.
Okay, the board has, Vision and Goals 4, the board has adopted superintendent constraints progress measures. Team members Tasha Gore and Amber Dady Crafton. And then quarterly progress, do I have to?
Yeah, and then,
Last reported July 18th, 2022. Previous quarter meets Focus 4, current status meets Focus 4, no change. And then next quarter target meets Master 4, or 5.
that's it. Then we got, progress and accountability 1.
Oh, that's me.
You wanna read that? Okay.
The board invests at least half its time in improving student outcomes. Team members Gerald Leonard, Amber Dady Crafton, Joe Russell. Current progress, last reported was July 18th of 2022. Previous quarters meets 12. Current status meets Focus. Next target is Masters Focus 15. Progress and ability 2, the board evaluates, does not interfere with progress towards improving students' outcomes. Team members Gerald Leonard, Amber Dady Crafton, Joe Russell. Quarterly progress, last reported was July 18th of 2022. Previous quarter was Masters Focus 5. Current status is Master Focus 5. Next quarterly target is Master Focus 5.
Okay. You wanna read the systems and? Yep.
Systems and process, team members Kirby Sansom and Joe Russell. Quarterly progress, last reported July 18th, 2022. Previous quarter meets Focus 12. Current status, preparing to Focus 1. Next quarter target meets Focus 12.
I'm going to read advocacy and engagement. The board promotes the vision. Team members Kirby Sampson and Chad Sutton. Quarterly progress report, last reported July 18, 2022. Previous quarter approaches Focus 3. Current status approaches Focus 3. Next target will be meets Focus 9. And I'm going to read synergy and teamwork. The board works collaboratively with the superintendent to lead towards the vision. Team members Greg Hoffman, Gerald Leonard, Chad Sutton. Quarterly progress, last reported July 18, 2022. Previous quarter approaches Focus 3. Current status approaches Focus 3. Next quarter target meets Focus 9.
Mr. President? I just want to say I appreciate the work that the board puts in on this. The work that you do as a board is incredible, and it's a volunteer work, but it's also a labor of the heart. So in order to get this done, working as a team through Lone Star Governance really is a difference maker, I believe. And so I thank you for your work on that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's see here. We're going to go to item number 13. We're going to jump around. Item number 13, which is the consent agenda. If there's any items on the consent agenda that somebody wants pulled out to discuss separately, let me know. Otherwise, anybody would like to make a motion on the consent agenda?
I would like to make a motion to approve items A, B, and C on the consent agenda.
Okay, got a motion by Kirby,
I'll second.
got a second by Amber. All in favor? Motion passes. All right. Okay. So now we're gonna go to item number 7. This is, opportunity for public comment. And I believe we have a couple people signed up. Let's see here. Just read this off real quick. Audience participation at the board meeting is limited to a portion of the meeting designated to receive public comment in accordance with this policy. At all other times of the board meeting, the audience shall not enter in discussion or debate on matters being considered by the board unless requested by the presiding officer. Individuals who wish to participate during the portion of this meeting designated for public comment shall sign up with the presiding officer and designee before the meeting begins as specified in the board's procedures on public comment, and shall indicate the agenda item or topic by which they wish to address the board. Except as permitted by this policy, the board's procedures on public comment and an individual's comment to the board shall not exceed 5 minutes per meeting. The board shall not deliberate or decide regarding any subject that is included on the agenda posted with this notice of the meeting. So, that being said, let's go to, let's see, Jolynn Wise. You got it? Okay. Oh, just, yeah, hit the little one on the right. There you go.
All right. First off, I'm not lashing out at anyone. I would just like to say thank you for listening to my concerns. I'm not one that likes to speak in front of people, but when it is something that is my passion, I have to. I've went in order of chain of command, yet I have not seen any changes. I know I'm just a para, but these kids mean the world to me. We have no special education support. VMS admin has tried reaching them when we need help, and we get no support. I have emailed them numerous times that our kids are regressing, and nothing is being done. Promises of meetings that don't happen. Instructional coaches come in weekly observing one class period, then come back the next day to tell the teacher what she's doing wrong. She tries to tell us how to teach students she doesn't even know and has never even worked with. Our children are begging for work, wanting to learn. N2I is not enough. The kids hate it. They are not receiving a fair education. When did our district get so big that we have to go through others to speak with the SPED director? Why do we need instructional coaches? We haven't grown that much. If we really need them, then they need adequate training on what their job is and how to do it. Our SPED department has lacked training the last 3 years. This is why we've lost so many awesome teachers. No training and no support. I have worked in this district for 12 years, and I've never seen the SPED department so unsupportive. I have always been treated as an equal by all my teachers and coworkers until this year. Now I can say I only feel like a warm body in a classroom, babysitting and changing diapers. That's how some, not all, of the SPED department have made me feel. There is so much more I could go on about, but I will leave it with this. Please help me help my kids. I am their voice tonight. You are more than welcome to come visit our classroom at any time to visit and with some of these students, and they will speak for themselves about how they feel. One last thing, some of our kids struggle with walking from the front of the school to our classroom that is way down the other end of the school. Some even hitting their heads against the wall trying to get there. I've went in chain of command to this as well. We want them dropped off behind the building like we did last year. Our little buses aren't allowed back there, but the big buses can line up to pick up the athletic kids behind our building or park it at maintenance to wait for the route to begin. But our kids can't be dropped off where it's safer for them to get to the class. It's not fair. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go to Michelle Sulak.
First, I would like to say thank you for your service. I know you have a very hard job, and I appreciate everything you do for our district. My name is Michelle Shulock. I have 24 years' experience, and I'm a graduate of Venus ISD. 20 of my years, I have been an employee at Venus ISD. I was first employed as a payroll specialist for 3 years, which I was paid as a paraprofessional. I left to stay home with my children. When my daughter was old enough to start pre-K, I was hired at BES to be an instructional aide until I received my degree, and then I moved to a second grade teacher. In 2009, I left the district but returned in 2013 to the primary where I'm currently. This is where I feel I've been called to teach. As I started looking towards retirement, my heart sank. I knew I had to do something to increase my salary before I would ever be able to retire. I immediately applied for a monitoring job on a bus to increase my income. When I started looking at the pay scale, I realized there are many non-degreed positions that top out $20,000 to $30,000 higher than a certified degree teacher can top out. I understand many people think a degree is just a piece of paper, but let me tell you what it is to me. It is missed time with my family, a financial burden of paying for that degree, and lots of hard work and effort to better myself. I completely understand it was my decision to get a degree, and quite honestly, I would have been better off to have stayed as the payroll specialist without the degree, as a teacher tops out roughly at $63,000, while the payroll specialist tops out at roughly $77,000. This past June, when our increases came out, I immediately called Miss Almond Smith and asked her if this was an actual raise or just a one-time stipend. She would never directly answer my question. She said, well, the board may decide to give you 2% increase next year, and then she used the analogy of how a big ship has to be turned slowly. It can't be turned quickly. What she neglected to tell me was that the district has two ships, the one with teachers and support staff that only pivots, never knowing if the money will be there the next year, and the speedboat that the admin building employees are on that can turn 360 degrees very quickly, and it's automatically added to their pay scale. As teachers, we hear the words how important we are, but this salary move speaks volumes about who is important in this district. When watching the video of the last board meeting, the CFO said our longevity is part of our salary. If this is so, then why am I not receiving longevity for all my years with Venus ISD? Out of 20 years, I only received credit for 10. Our salaries don't just affect our income now, but it affects our retirement for the rest of our lives. I want to leave you with this question. If the district can't pay the employees comparable wages to the surrounding districts, why are positions being added with salaries starting out higher than a 30-year teacher tops out? Thank you for your time.
All right, I'm gonna go to Terry Crosby.
Hello, I'm Terry Crosby. I came here about 5 years ago, and I had come to move and retire here because, well, I'm not going to retire because I can't afford to retire, but I just want to ask you one question. What is the literacy of these students worth to you? To me, this is what it was worth. Over $50,000 of student loans to get my master's degree, spending over $2,000 a year for my students in my classroom, additional PD days that I have to pay for or that I want to take to improve my students, countless nights laying awake thinking about how to help my students and academically or emotionally, putting my life in danger should some stranger come in and shoot us all up, and putting my health at risk. So moving on, I just want to say, my husband's a pastor, so I have to use scripture. The scripture I want to use, and this is dear to me, in Timothy it says, "Thou shalt not muzzle the ox that treadeth out the corn, and the labor is worthy of his hire." So tonight I'm bringing the ox to the barn to let you know that we need help. We need help because if we don't have money to pay our bills or money to even live in the district, how are we going to help these kids? And I love it here. And like I said, I want to retire here or work until they drag me out. Thank you for your time.
Kimberly Hayes?
I didn't have planned to speak tonight, but first off, I want the board to know thank you for standing behind us and hearing us these past several months, and giving the paraprofessionals and everybody the raises that they intended for it to be. I also want to say that I completely 100% support JoLynn Wise and what she was saying earlier. I experienced part of that with them today as a nurse. And I called SPED department to ask them to come over and help because it was happening in my office. Our administration was busy trying to get a hold of parents, was doing their best dealing with all the other things that they needed to within the situation. But I did not get a call back at all from SPED till later, and then was asked, why would you need us? Whenever it was a life skills kid that was in my office. So JoLynn, I 100% support you in what you do. I support what these teachers have said. I have thought many times of going back to school to finish my degree either in education or in nursing, and have realized that my passion is to be in school nursing, and quite frankly, it's not worth the money for me to go and get the degree because I'm not going to get paid enough for it to make a difference by the time I'm going to retire. So I completely support what you guys are saying as well. So, but mainly, thank you to the board for hearing us, for listening to us, to the administration for hearing us and listening to us. I will also kind of branch off of what Michelle said about speaking with Ms. Almond Smith. After the last board meeting, when it was said to you guys that everybody's pay check was looked at and it was correct, mine was not still. It took after last board meeting, and I had to physically go sit down with her before it was corrected. And then whenever I said, this is what's wrong with it, she still didn't understand it, had the CFO come in, and they finally figured it out. And then they were able to print me the correct salary verification. So I can understand where the frustration with that is as well. Thank you.
Okay. Go to Jolie Perez.
Hi, my name's Joelle Perez. I'm a reading interventionist at Venus Primary. I've worked here for many years. I worked a few years and then took some years off with my girls and then have come back. This is the only district that I've ever worked at. My mom worked here for 23 years. So when I say that this district is important to me, what I mean are these kids are my babies, and the people that I work with, they're my people. So after the last board meeting, I was directed to look at the recording, and there were some things that were very upsetting to me. And I say we because it's myself and many staff members that have questions how these raises came to be. There were numbers thrown out like $10,000, $12,000, and $20,000 raises. When I looked at the teacher pay scale. A teacher with 30 years of experience got $3,100 raise. So how is it that any one person can get 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7 times what a teacher with 30 years of experience got? The other thing that is very upsetting to me is we're raising $10,000, $12,000, $20,000, and we're raising their pay scale. That means they get it this year. That means they get it every year from now on, but not the teachers. We're told, oh, well, if we have money next year, you'll get your 5%. But if we don't, you'll get 2%. So we are not treated with the same value that the people in this office are. And you can say we're valuable, but you're not. Your money is speaking for itself. I'm not exactly sure when you talk about a district who talks about transparency, how board members are surprised and shocked at the amount of raises that people were getting. I don't know how that happens. I want that explained. How does that happen? Why is it that one person can get 20,000, but your teachers that have been here 30 years can get 3? These are questions that we have asked. At the recommendation of our UAE representative, we were told to draft an email with our questions and wait for a response. That was over 2 weeks ago and no response. We were told to ask for records, which we've still not received. We're not out for anyone. I am not out for anyone. When I tell you I love the people in this district, I love the people in this district. But I do believe in transparency, and I do believe that questions need to be answered. You know, that is an incredible amount of money when we say we don't have money for teachers, but we can add so many positions and then we can give absurd raises like this. But we're told there's no money. That doesn't make sense. So all we're asking for is answers, because it is very unclear and it is very unsettling to teachers who work with children every day. We dedicate our lives. And you all know we don't do it for money. But whether it's my calling or not, I deserve to be paid just as everyone else, just like these aides do who serve the same children that I do. I serve 37 of the most at-risk students in our school every day. Their literacy sits in my hands. And if you don't think that I don't feel the weight of that, you are mistaken. I take it very seriously. But this is maddening to me. And the fact that nobody wants to answer our questions makes me enraged. So we deserve better than this.
Thank you. Okay. Make sure I don't skip anything here. I'm going to go to item number 8. Presentation of student growth performance update, first quarter interim assessment, 3 through 8th reading, 3 through 8th math, and 9th grade algebra 1. Student outcome goals 1 and 2, 4, and 5.
Okay, good evening. As part of our regular monitoring of student progress, we give our students interim assessments at the end of the first quarter and then again at the end of the third quarter. An interim assessment is simply an assessment of the student's mastery of concepts that have already been taught against the end of year standard for those concepts. And sometimes people refer to these as benchmarks. These assessments are formative. Students do not receive a grade for them, and they are an indicator of the student level of mastery at the moment when they're given. Teachers use these assessments and the data to identify student strengths and look for areas that need to be retaught or to be reinforced. Teachers and administrators use the data to evaluate the alignment of instruction to the level of rigor demanded by the TEKS, to the horizontal alignment of instruction across the grade level, and the vertical alignment of instruction across the campus. The interim assessments are developed through collaboration of the curriculum and content coaches, team leaders, department leaders, and in some areas, the course teachers. All of the course teachers have input into the interim assessments. So the data right here show the areas of strength across the district, as well as some areas that are going to need targeted support. So areas of strength in reading, we see 62% of fifth graders already at approaching grade level, 75% of fifth grade math, 87% of sixth grade math, and 66% of eighth grade math students performing at approaches grade level. Administrators have already been and will continue to target reading, math across the board, and of course, Algebra 1. So some factors that we are that we know have contributed to this performance is the lack of familiarity with the online test platform. So since the STAR test is going to be completely online this year and has undergone some changes, with which Mrs. Camacho will talk about in just a minute, we're giving our interim assessments also online in the same platform, or not in the same platform, but in the same formats. And so there's definitely levels of familiarity across the students, and not all of them are very familiar. So for example, third graders have never taken an online test before. And so this may be the first time some of them have done that, and that takes time and some practice. So that's definitely something teachers are considering, and what the instructional support staff is considering as we think about what the next steps are to make sure that students are receiving what they need. So we will definitely be working in more opportunities to practice, and not just the students, but making sure that the teachers know how to lead the students through practice of these items and through the test platforms. So in the graph, you can just see blue is reading, gold is math, the percentage of students who were approaching the passing standard. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Go to item number 9, presentation of STAR redesign and testing updates. Ms. Camacho?
There we go.
So as Crystal begins to present, there is a redesign, as it states, of STAR this year. And so it's going to impact our students and our teachers. And so that's why we wanted Mrs. Camacho to come and talk about this tonight. So, Crystal?
Okay, so this, they're calling it a redesign. It's for all state testing, which includes STAR and TELPAS. So I'm going to quickly go over some of the changes, and then if y'all have any questions, you can ask any questions. So we say complete redesign. Almost every single part of every single grade level and content has changed. All right, so these are some highlights of the redesign. The biggest one is the new question types. So previously, STAR test has been almost 100% multiple choice. And now we are looking at a whole new host of item types. So things like matching, constructed response, where students actually have to write in response to things. They have to cite text evidence. So they give them a passage, they ask them a question, and they have to go in and find where the answer is, and they have to highlight that and show where they found their answer, show their work. Things like matching, graphing, instead of just giving them 4 graphs, which one is correct, they actually have to do it. So they use the online platform to create the graph. More cross-curricular reading passages. So everything in the ELAR 3 through 8 and English 1 and 2 brings in other content areas such as social studies, science, and math. And so a lot of it, all of the contents now kind of work in conjunction one and another. You scroll back up 1 second. Okay, so evidence-based writings, we talked about that. They actually have to find the evidence, and they have to cite evidence and use that in their constructed responses. Accommodations. So this is one of the really positive things to come out of the redesign is that students in the special education, students that are limited English proficient, and students that have 504 plans now have a whole new host of accommodations that they can use online. Because the testing is 100% online this year, and we are not allowed to do paper testing except in very, very special cases, they are able to use a lot more accommodations than they normally would. So that gives them a little extra support when they are testing. And then, as I said, the tests are 100% online. You're gonna scroll down. Okay, so I know it's really hard to see. So here's all of the new question types. There are quite a few. The main point here is that at least 25% of the test is now a new question type and not multiple choice. In some cases, it's more. For example, English 1 and English 2, a third of the test is writing. So it's students write. They might revise a sentence that is written incorrectly. They might write a response to something they read, or they might write a response to a prompt that they're asked to write about. Some of the other things that you see here are drag and drop. They may actually do a graph themselves instead of, like I said, just picking a graph, picking numbers on a number line. So instead of looking at 4 number lines, they actually get to do it. So they get to plot it just like they would in class and when they're receiving instruction. Graphing, text entry. So again, instead of just picking a multiple choice question, they're actually typing in the answer. Scroll down. Okay, so here's some information about the redesign that's on TEA's website, so we can scroll past that. All right, so again, all testing is done online. So in order to qualify for a paper test, there are a lot of restrictions that you have to go for and get approval from TEA. As of right now, we do not have any students that are qualified to take paper tests, so 100% of our STAR and our TELPAS students will be online this year. Okay, another big part, as Dr. Morgan mentioned, is that students need practice with this testing platform. It's like any new testing platform, just like any of us, when we go into something for the first time, we kind of have to click around and figure things out. So we want students to be familiar with that before test day, and all of the tools and the features that they can use, because there are a lot of features, even for students who don't receive accommodations, that they can use. So TEA has said that they recommend that students have at least 2 practice tests, and they call them at-bats, like a baseball bat. And there are several ways that we can do that. We can do beginning of year assessments, interim assessments, other curriculum assessments. They have a few ideas for us and a few things in their platform, but the important thing is that they're actually using that online platform. So they're learning the tools and they're learning it beforehand. And so we have already started doing that in some of our classrooms, and again, a lot of the instruction and the item types are already mirroring what they're going to see. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's online. For example, what looks like a matching on the new item type might be a sort in class. So a 3rd grade classroom might do a sort, or they might make a graph on paper, but that's actually the same kind of instruction that they receive and the same kind of question that they see when they take the assessment. All right, so accessibility features and accommodations. Accessibility features are available to any student. It's not an accommodation, it's basically extra help that any student can receive. There are all kinds of new accessibility features because of the online platform, so that's why we want students to get familiar with it, so if they are they able to make use of one, then they know how to use it for assessment day. And again, accommodations are available to students, SPED 504, emergent bilingual. So those students have more accommodations that they can receive, and they get to receive those accommodations at every assessment throughout the year. So any kind of instruction that they have in the classroom or practice assessment they might take, those accommodations mirror that. All right, another big change, no time limits. So previously, all STAR tests, EOCs have been 3 or 4 hours. TEA said no more. Every student has until the end of the day, so they get as long as they need. Extra time was previously an accommodation. It is not anymore. This changes a lot of things that we do on campus level and district level for logistics. For example, how we combine classrooms, how we provide lunches on testing days, and so there's a lot of considerations for that. TEA has said that they still expect a typical student to finish in 3 hours or less, and then we will combine any students that are still testing, and the students that are not will not have to sit all day. They will get to go back to regular classes. Okay, so STAR wasn't the only one that had big changes. TELPAS was also had its own big changes. So we talked about TELPAS a few months ago. It's the English Language Proficiency Assessment. It's how students that are limited English proficient are assessed on how their proficiency in English. And so up until now, writing has been assessed with actual writing samples. So that means they're writing in every class. They have to write in a certain format on a certain paper. All of the teachers that have the student have to assess it. There's a lot that goes into it. It's about a 2 to 3 month process in the spring, and so that has gone away. It is all embedded online now. It is graded by graders, hand graders, and there will not be any more grading at our level except for K&1 because that's done on campus. Those, because of the smaller grades, those are holistically graded. So basically that's just that's teacher observation. The student, in their normal interactions with the student, assesses their language proficiency. Okay, so they call this redesign, they call this STAR redesigned STAR 2.0. And so historically, when there's a major shift from one test to another, over 20 years or 25 years, we've went from tabs to teams to TOS to TAX to STAR, and now we're moving into STAR 2.0. So over these years, there is always a period of adjustment. And so TEA has done some things to take that into consideration. And as a district, we'll also have to do some things to take that into consideration. If you'll scroll to the next slide. Okay, here's some effects. So big effect, and this affects y'all because this is how y'all hear results. No more STAR progress measures. So previously we reported on each student and did they meet their progress measure or no. And they're only being measured against themselves, not against anybody else. So those are gone this year because they've said that they cannot measure a test that's different this year against a test that's different last year, which makes sense. They have said that they are going to show growth somehow, but we just don't know what that's going to look like yet, and probably won't until next summer after the test has already been administered. Reporting will be delayed. So as a district, we will see results much later than normal, which could have a lot of implications, for example, for graduation for some of our seniors who are waiting to pass for a diploma, and also for summer school. TEA has said that there is going to be what we call a zone of uncertainty. So there may be, within a few questions, we may not know if that student passes or not until way into the summer. And accountability is changing. So accountability has also completely been redesigned. So how we are measured against this as a district as a whole, and then also on the campus level, is changing. And more on accountability is coming in the spring when more of those things are firmed up, because right now it's all still in progress.
What does it mean when it says it will have graduation implications?
So as a district, we will have to decide. We have a few, not a lot this year, but we do have a few students who are seniors who are retesting. And so depending on their situation, if they are waiting, we cannot confer a diploma without either a STAR test score and or a substitute assessment for each EOC. So if we have one that's waiting and for some reason they are not qualified for IGC, either they've already IGC'd for 2 and or for whatever other reason, then we may have to decide if they can go ahead and walk the stage and then wait for results to come in later. And that would be a district decision for y'all. Any other questions?
So with with it all being on the computer, how are we going to be able to do? So they're going to have their Chromebooks and it's all going to be on their Chromebook, or are we
Yes.
providing something?
All on their Chromebook. We do provide, we have, for students that have accommodations that need specialty devices, like an AMP device, they need to hear. A lot of the accommodations are already provided in there for students that need like the Zoom, for students that have, limited vision or they're vision impaired, they can use that. We also provide headphones. We have a lot of students that use text to speech that benefit from hearing the directions and or the questions and or the answer choices. So we do provide the headphones. And then for TELPAS, we also provide a microphone because there is a speaking component, but they will use their own Chromebooks. We do have extra Chromebooks that are available because we know things happen. And we went through the same thing when we did map testing. We tested whole campuses. And so we have most students bring their Chromebooks. We're good. A few need extra Chromebooks. And so overall that went well. We did our first technology check for testing on November 7th. And right now it looks good. Network is good. We're ready to go. We have our first round of state testing in December for our retesters.
And so in December, how long will it take to get those results?
We'll have those in January. So in December, some of the redesign will be effective, some won't. So for example, the time limit's gone, but these new question types will not be in there in December. That doesn't happen till the spring. And we'll have the results probably by the time we get back from Christmas break for those. We do have some seniors that are, and so if they take it and they pass it this time, we're good. We don't have to worry about it, about walking or any kind of implication like that. And I'm not, like I said, we do still have the IGC process, so it could be that it doesn't affect any, but it will affect things like summer school, how we do summer school, and things like how we plan for next year's instruction, because we won't have any of that information really until August. So there's a lot of different things on campus and even in instructional implications in that because of the delayed reporting. Any other questions?
Do not.
No. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to go to item number 11, presentation of annual Special Education Department report. Ms. Lonsford?
Good evening. Thank you, President Sutton, Mr. Hopper, and board members for allowing me the opportunity to present this to you. Scroll on to the next. Here we are. The topics we're going to review tonight are program representation, program accountability, and program updates. Also wanted to add our department mission on there, that the mission of the Venus ISD Special Education Department is to support and provide individualized instructional experiences for students with disabilities. We believe in sharing ownership with the students' educational team so that growth is realized for all of our students. With our representation currently with students at Snapshot, we had 254 students, which is up slightly from last year. Our largest growth with primary disability category, we had a pretty nice increase with our students with autism, as well as our students with intellectual disabilities, and a slight decrease with our students with specific learning disabilities. Next, we have our campus representation. Wanted everyone to know the number of students we have at each campus. At the high school, we have 74, middle school, 47, elementary 84, middle school 49, elementary 84, and primary 47. And with our instructional settings, we have, you'll notice on the left side with our less restrictive environments, we have the majority of our students still being served in the least restrictive environment in the general education setting. Moving on to our instructional staff, we have 31.5 educators in that area. We have 13 teachers. We still have 2 vacancies currently. Hopefully one will be filled as of tomorrow. And we were unable to fill one position, so we have 1 teacher contracted currently. We have 16 paraprofessionals with 2 vacant positions open currently that we're looking for. Our speech language pathologist or speech language pathology assistant, we have 1.5 currently providing our speech therapy. 1 dyslexia specialist providing that support, and our other instructional services are contracted. With our department staff, it says 5. That was a miscalculation. There are 6 of us, myself, the department administrative assistant, 2 educational diagnosticians, and 2 instructional coaches that were added this year. Then with our program accountability, I wanted to introduce you to our scorecard where we are, let me go back to my notes. I should be following my notes. This helps us monitor our program performance related to district, state, and federal targets. Some of the highlights you'll see, we have made areas of improvement in STAR 3 through 8, our CCMR indicators, and total disciplinary removals. We still need to have areas of improvement or room to improve with our STAR 3 through 8, our graduation rate, and our total disciplinary removals as well. But our greatest area of need currently is with our EOCs for English. And then last but not least, program updates. Want to give a review from our program review, what we've been able to do so far with that. Earlier we presented, or I guess in September, we presented the 5 areas related to our program review findings. And so I wanted to keep those here and then add what we've done so far under each area. So the expectations and procedures have been reviewed and are available to all staff members, administrators through our Google site. We have staff surveys that have been completed and analyzed. We, again, back to the Google site, we provided all of our special education staff with an overview of the program review findings as well as standards-based IEP process training in October. Our universal design for learning supports right now are provided through our unique learning system and goal book for teachers to provide or to find strategies to use with students, and also support not just our special education teachers, but our general education teachers as well. And then also support from instructional coaches. We've been working through strategic planning sessions. The first one was on October 24th, and our second one was today, where we had our district teams going through continuous improvement processes and strategic planning activities, where we have campus administrators, instructional coaches, general ed and special education curriculum department staff, as well as special education evaluators as part of the team. It has been really great. Today we were able to develop campus dashboards, so they focus down from the activities where they've determined their goals and prioritize them, and then found some leading measures and strategies that they're going to use to support at the campus level. And then we also had, in November, this is November, earlier, 2 weeks ago with our professional development, we went through a similar activity with our teachers and paraprofessionals where they were able to help us identify strengths and weaknesses in targeted areas, and then determine the department's greatest strength and need area. And then we can move on. I've read enough for you today. Here is the calendar of events for the year with a strategic approach to what we're doing and providing to staff. And this is a living document that has changed a little bit, and after today, it will change a little bit more after we have our campus dashboards and are continuing to work on our district level needs, and we'll be developing a strategic support plan to provide district support for everyone, campuses, students, teachers, and that is it. Are there any questions?
Yeah, so I have a couple actually.
Sure.
So on your documents here, you have on here that we have instructional coaches.
Yes, ma'am.
What do they actually do?
They work to coach teachers, whether they are new or if there's a targeted area of need. They will also help provide professional development. They're on our strategic planning team right now, but we want to expand from right now. We started in-house with our special education staff and teachers who are new, which currently we have 6 new teachers to the district, and then another teacher being supported is new, coming from a secondary campus to a primary, which is a little bit of an adjustment, so been providing support with that as well.
So we took away the 2 ARD facilitators from last year and we added the 2 instructional coaches in. Because it shows that you had 2 ARD facilitators last year. And then this year it just says that you have 2
diagnosticians.
Yeah.
Yes. So one of our ARD facilitators from last year finished her program and was able to move into the educational diagnostician position, which is great because we have been functioning with 1 educational diagnostician. since 2021. So that was a big support for our evaluation staff, and they are both able to manage currently the ARD meetings, evaluations, and we have the instructional coaches in the event that ARD schedules get crazy and we need them to help facilitate. We will send them to ARD manager training and have them support that as well.
What is this Google site that you keep talking about?
It is a website where we hold all of our documents. It's kind of a repository for resources for our teachers or staff, anyone who need them, where we have special teacher forms, instructional guides, any TEA or other resources that we may need a link to have support for supporting students.
So,
And I would be happy to share.
so Ms. Lunsford, so
Yes.
the move away from ARD facilitators, is that planned, intentional, or is it just simply the way personnel worked out?
It was really the way personnel worked out this year. And having Kat last year as an ARD facilitator, getting her the ARD facilitation or management experience to go on top of her education as for an educational diagnostician, we brought her in as that because we knew she didn't have her her certification test at that moment last year. She didn't do that, I want to say, till March of last year. So we wanted to get her in and prepare. So then we moved her into the educational diagnostician piece, and that was really it was too. And then we converted the other one into an instructional coach to be able to provide more support right away when teachers need it in the moment. And right now it mainly is in our special education department, but we are branching to include them in PLCs and provide support for more than just our teachers, for all the teachers. Because if we go back where the majority of our students are being served in the general ed setting, who are the teachers supporting them? Our general education teachers, and we want them to be supported and have the knowledge and skills to be able to implement the IEP.
Let me ask one more, if you don't mind.
Sure.
We've heard tonight a little bit about communication and support.
Yes.
Without addressing specifics, I want to know in general, what can the department do to improve on communication and support within SPED?
I think it's vital that we continue to work very closely with campus administration because they are the ones with the boots on the grounds there every day. They see what's going on and can support us as we support them. So, that will be my goal, is to continue to work closely with campus administration.
Okay, and so I just have a question about that. So, like he said, the communication, I know personally communication is not very well, because I've not received phone calls back either. So I think that needs to be something that needs to be on the front burner, because we do have parents that are actually looking for help and need help, and they don't know where to call or where to go. And I've mentioned this months ago, but of course it's still not being done. So I think communication needs to be probably on the forefront of that.
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about the staff survey that you did? Because it says staff survey completion and analysis. What did that entail? Will we see, is it surveying your...
That was with our department staff, and it was related to the Google site and how to make things better and more easily, I'm sorry to cut you off, but more easily accessible for them, because we want, as the end user, we want it to be efficient for them.
So it was just solely about the site. It wasn't departmental, what can we do better? What do we see? Any of that. It was just about the site.
Correct.
Okay.
And we did the other one on November 4th, where we did our strengths and weaknesses as a department.
So can we see those? Can we get a copy of those?
Sure. I can get with Mr. Hopper and make sure he can distribute it to you guys.
Okay. No other questions? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
All right, we're going to go to item number 12, review of school view bus transportation system and tracking app implementation. Ms. Lee?
Good evening. So coming before you to review where we are 2 months in with our BusView implementation. And NFT is the parent company that houses all of the views that are Parent View, Trip View, BusView. So we're going to try to start calling them NFT rather than everything under BusView. We sent out a survey, and to go first to tell you, we have 2,321 total students, and approximately 1,698 are bus riders. It varies. We have some that ride in the morning, some that ride in the afternoon that don't, some that ride all the time, some that ride when they need it. So those numbers are always fluctuating, and we have obviously a large number of our students that we do serve at one time or another. So we have 349 unique users that have downloaded the parent app, that they are able to interact with our system and also receive communication, subscribe to different notifications, and let us know when they need to make a change for pickup, or to that they're going to be picked up by the parent, or that a student needs to go to a different address. So that is approximately 21%. The industry standard that they are seeing with the with NFT is a 40% download. I think that a good portion of that can be attributed to starting in the summer when they are doing enrollment. They have parents and they walk them through, and it's a part of the enrollment piece. So since we were not able to begin until September, I think that we will see a lot more parents downloading that app, and we see it grow as parents need to interact with us about changes or want to know what is going on with their bus and where their child is. So what we did earlier this month is we sent out a survey about the app usage. It was initially emailed out to all email addresses that we have from Skyward, and then we also targeted after that those parents with email addresses that have their accounts set up. So some parents may have received more than one notification or request for input. And if we go on, we talked about the inconsistencies with notification and some other things that were going on, and we received some feedback through that survey. So if you'll go up just a little bit, this is what happened when we sent it out. The initial question was if they had downloaded the app, because those were the parents that we wanted to interact with to see what they were seeing in the app and to get feedback directly from them. So those that answered no, that they did not download the app, that concluded their portion of the survey.
And I'm correct in reading, we only had 168 people take that survey?
Yes.
But some of them could have taken it twice if they got the email twice.
No, I don't believe so, because there was a link that was in there and it connected them to their account. At least that was my understanding. Jen would probably be able to answer us a little bit better on how that worked out and what they received. But regardless, if they did not, if they responded that they did not have the app, then they didn't go forward to continue to answer questions. And it would ask them specific questions about the app and how they were interacting. So if they didn't have the app, they wouldn't really be able to answer those questions. So,
oh, hey, I'm happy to help address that. So the first initial survey that went out went to all of the parent addresses in Skyward that we have, those email addresses. The second survey that went out went just to those email addresses that are connected to their NFT account. And so if they have a different email address that they used when they registered for NFT, they might have gotten it twice. So those surveys were sent out 2 separate times, so it's possible that somebody submitted 2 different responses. But it's, I tried to go through with a fine-tooth comb and check all of that and eliminate duplicates, and I think I saw 2, so.
How often are we reaching out to parents? I know that we are 2 months in and we're just now kind of doing this recirculation, but it seems like if this is our primary source of our parents monitoring their children's bus ride, I would expect, I mean, I don't even know what % that is. I mean, 1,600 students, we had 163 responses. So how often are we like circling back? Because if I'm a parent and I need to change my student's route, right, and I call, maybe I don't know why parents wouldn't be registering for this, but for not constantly just like pushing this information out to parents who haven't. But then I call and I say, hey, I need to change my students. They're like, well, you have to download the app. Well, then how soon do I download the app? Then I can change my student's route. How soon is all of that being able to take place?
Immediately. If they call in and they're referred back to the app, if they need assistance with it, then they're often referred to me, though I think that they are getting some support on the campuses as well. Everybody is just trying to help them. So really the problems that I'm seeing are when a parent calls me and that they're having a difficult time, and I walk them through it. And we have not had instances. I think that there was one that we've needed to refer to NFT for support. Everybody else we were able to see. There are 4 pieces of information that they need to be able to download the app and see their student and make those changes and requests. They need to know their student's name, the birthday, their ID number, and the 4-digit code, just so that it's enough different pieces that we don't have anyone getting a student's information for safety reasons.
So I do have a question. So I know even now on mine, my child's not found still. So do we know how many of those are actually out there? Because I know that, I mean, I've heard it from other people. So mine says, I try to even put him in the middle school. He's not at the middle school. He's not at the high school. So it just says he's not found.
So the not found is a lot. I could liken it to if you try to log in and your password doesn't work, then it may not find you. It doesn't mean that you don't exist in the system. It just means that all of the things that needed to line up to get you in past all of the protection was not there. And what I'm most often finding is the culprit is that we have students who that 4-digit code no longer applies to their account. The 4-digit code comes from the last 4 digits of their ID badge that's internal. They can't see it on the outside. It's the RFID code. So if they have damaged their badge or lost it and they get another badge, the code, that 4-digit code, has now changed. So if you as a parent or another parent still has that initial 4-digit code, then they may not be seeing it. It should be updated. We're doing updates to Skyward so it changes, but if they don't go back and look, then they're not seeing it. So I've had a handful of parents that have reached out to me, and when I verify who they are and then I go into the NFT software and I look and they tell me the information that they have, I can see the more than one badge if they have more than one, and I can see the 4-digit code that they have versus the current RFID badge, and that's, how I can tell. There have been a couple of instances where someone had their student's ID, there was a number transposed in there, but it's been very simple to fix if anybody contacted us.
So if I fall into that situation, then and it says that my child is not found, is that right?
Yes.
So how do I know what to do next?
To my knowledge, everyone has reached out and asked either at the campus level and they've been referred to me, or they've looked on the website and they've called us. You're the first that I've heard that they had a concern and they didn't call the campus. I would be happy to help you.
No, I called transportation.
Okay.
I was told I'd get a call back.
You spoke with someone and were told that you would get a call back? Because I'm the only person.
Yeah.
And you spoke with me.
I don't know if I spoke with you. No, I'm not sure. I don't know. It might have been when the other person was there. I'm not 100% sure.
Yep, there's not anybody else that answers the phone. It comes directly to my desk, and there's, unless it was an instance where I was driving and it went to our admin building, but that
Okay, so if
hasn't happened. But I'd
if
be
my
happy.
child is not found, then I call you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I guess, I'll go ahead.
Sure. So then we asked who had downloaded it. Have you used the app to change your child's drop-off? And we found that 34% had, and 66.5% had not used that for that purpose. The next question was, I find the app to be accurate when I track the bus that my student is riding. And we went from strongly disagree and disagree to a neutral section that was just under 40%. The agree was the highest level, and strongly agree. So the neither agree or disagree, it indicated to me that we had more parents that were using it successfully than those that were struggling. And we're looking into it to see why we believe that parents are having a difficult time with the accuracy with anyone that provides us with information that we can look at a specific student or a specific situation. We're working with NFT to track down and find out, what the issue was with accuracy.
I can say I'm one of those parents.
Okay.
So my daughter rides in the morning and it's dark when she walks in light of the recent time change. And we have to refresh. I believe that the bus was still showing at the bus barn and it was in our neighborhood. And that happened just as of last week. And so she's, we know that it's going to be there about 6:40 or so. And so we make sure that she's down there. But if it's raining, if it's freezing cold, I don't want to send her down there to stand because that's obviously why we approved the app. So I am one of those parents in Patriot Estates where I'm refreshing, and it's not real time. It's like I have to shut the app down to redo it. So, like I said, it was still showing the bus at the bus barn, and they were in the neighborhood because she went running down there to catch the bus. So I am one of those parents where it's not accurate for us at all.
Okay. Do you notice like a time frame? Can you?
She only rides it in the morning, so we try to check it when it's like about the time for it to start kind of getting to the neighborhood. And it was consistently showing us, like I said, just of last week, that it was the bus was at the bus barn. And like I said, we had to like refresh, and then it would like show, oh, it's at your bus stop. And so, if she hadn't have just been like kind of peeking out, she would have like missed the bus.
Right. Would you tell me afterward? I
Sure.
don't want you to have to give out your bus number so that I can look into that and see exactly what's going on and what kind of time frame. I know from looking at the bus tracking app and seeing all of the buses that there is a little bit of a delay. We wish that it was all like, Life 360 where you can see everybody, down to the room that they're at in your house. And I've not seen that it works that way on any of the transportation pieces and programs that we looked at. Hopefully they're getting closer. It is relying on cellular, but what we may need to look at is if we're not hitting cellular towers and getting timely feedback, working with NFT to see if we can use a different cell provider, if we could try something different to see if we get a better response.
And I'll give you another example. The first second graders were on a field trip, and I got the notification that he badged on to leave the site, but it never updated that they left. And I'm sitting in the parking lot, and here's the bus. And it's still showing it at the site from the field trip. I got the notification that he badged on, but as I'm sitting there refreshing for the bus, it pulled into the parking lot while I'm sitting there. And I'm like, well,
So are you talking about while they were there at the field trip coming back?
yeah. So they were loading the bus. I got the notification. He scanned on, and then I was tracking it because I was going to go pick him up because it was almost near the end of the day, and waiting for the app to refresh to see how far out they were. It still never moved. It never showed me that the bus ever moved locations from where he badged on.
Okay. Have you ever been able to see it move, or it's totally a refresh piece for any movement whatsoever?
For him, that was the first time he's ever badged on because he doesn't ride the bus. It just happened to be a field trip that he was on, so I like to test it, because I also have a kid who does sports and does activities and, trying to see where she's at, especially when she's coming back late.
Right.
But for him, that was the first time we'd ever really seen that he'd ever badged on and just no information whatsoever.
Are you receiving other notifications when coming back from field trips with your older child?
So that's a whole nother piece that they're not using it when she's traveling, like for sports and things like that. That was a question that I had submitted on what the communication piece is as far as the expectation of them using it. Cause I ran into a situation where her phone died because I was live 360 because she didn't badge on or badge off for a sports event. And so I'm like, well, I guess I'll just go up to the school and sit. And I sat there for about 45 minutes because her phone died. I couldn't track her and I didn't know where the bus was. So
I will say that the boys do use it, and but it does not work in real time. So like when we were coming home from West, the boys badged on. I was sitting there with a parent, and it still said that they were basically in West where they stopped to get lunch or dinner, and then they were in the parking lot. They were in our parking lot to come home, for us to get them off. So I know it stops and it does not refresh.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
like it.
So it just,
caught
it's
up.
like lags.
I'm gonna look at the west one especially. I'm wondering, did they get off the bus and maybe if they didn't scan off and back on?
No, they don't know. Boys eat on the bus and come
Okay,
home.
okay.
Yeah.
So they were just en route?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look at that.
You know, one of the things that we did, and we actually even brought transportation director from a district who also uses this to come and talk to them about how theirs is being implemented. And I think one of the things that we can see is that depending on the cell towers and those kinds of things in the district, it's probably going to work a little bit different in every school district, in every situation. However, what we need to do is make sure that that it lives up to its billing. You know, we came in here and we talked about, hey, you know, right, exactly. What sort of a return are we getting on this investment? Because if this thing lives up to its billing, well, my goodness, it does exactly what our parents need to do, which is track the buses. So we're going to set up and have regular meetings also with NFT to be able to work through these things. And, you know, as we go, you know, this is either going to work out or it's not. And, but hopefully we can get the glitches done so that we can get the glitches addressed so that we can have this thing working the way it's built. Otherwise, we'll see what we need to do from there.
I do.
That's my question. What's our opt-out on this deal?
We haven't discussed it yet since we're 2 months in. What I am seeing from NFT is that they are very responsive to what our concerns are and making adjustments that suit our needs. So they've been really good to work with, and you know, I want to give it every effort that we can. What I hear from you guys and parents is that our parents are. This is something that they want. They want to be able to know where their students are for safety reasons. They want to know when the bus is coming. You know, all of the pieces that they've offered us, we want. And so I'm going to work diligently with them to see that they provide what they've told us that they can provide us, and you know, hopefully come back to you and show how they've improved and how they've responded to the questions that you had for us.
Well, I mean, when it was first rolled out to us, I mean,
Right.
this was gonna be the greatest thing since sliced bread. It's really been anything but that, which that seems to be something that we're more and more getting these days.
I think that we've had a lot of good things that we've seen. We've had instances where we didn't know where a student got on a bus, and we were able to go into the system and look and see where that child was, and find them immediately, and put, you know, parents and campuses, you know, concerns to rest that the student is on the bus, they've fallen asleep, or, you know, they were supposed to be on the transfer bus, but they got onto their regular bus, you know, things like that. So I believe that the safety piece, it has definitely been a help, but it's a growth, and we're learning more about it, and they're learning to help us. So I feel like that we have a good start, and I'm not ready to say that it's not going to serve us. I think we need some more time and more communication with them and working on solving what our concerns are.
So when can we see what our opt-out is?
We can discuss it when we have an upcoming meeting that we're going to have with NFT, so that's something that we can bring up.
Yeah, I'd like to know what that
Okay.
is.
Will you be updating us monthly on this? I would like to kind of track this monthly to see, you know, are we continuously reaching out to parents? You know, how many more parents have signed up, things like that with the push out. I think it's one of those that if this is their primary mode to track their students, or if we have questions, we put the responsibility on the parent. But I think we should continuously push that out individually. But I would like to see how this tracks month over month, just because we're working out kinks, and we know what we approved when it was brought to us before the board, that we were getting X, Y, and Z, and I don't think we're getting that. So I would like to see how we're continuously working towards that.
And I would also be happy to answer, you know, if you have people that are coming to you that you mentioned, please share with me, and I would
typically
love
send them to you. I typically
Okay.
tell them to contact transportation, because I had a couple of students weren't found, and I would let them know that, because I even walked them through finding the code on their Skyward, and student
Right.
wasn't found, so I sent them your way.
Yeah, I think that it's scary to say that their student isn't found. It maybe that can be something to discuss with them about terminology that's, you know, that you don't have the pieces to log in to see your student versus, you know, that we don't have your student, they're not there.
Right.
Because what happens every single night, there is a download from Skyward, and it includes new students and others. And sometimes, for instance, when they've gone on a trip, that it will update their address, even if it's like county road and a number versus CR and that same number. So it's just a little bit different format. So I see those updates that come from Skyward. So Skyward is pushing out that information. So that tells me that if they're in Skyward, they are in this new system because it happens every single night.
Did you say this was part of our new enrollment process? So like the students that are currently coming to us brand new, is this part of what we're giving them as part of the enrollment process?
So they, I don't know what they're doing or seeing as part of the enrollment process. I know that Skyward pushes their information, and I get an email that we have a new enrollee, and then we make their ID card, and those pieces come together. So that is part of it, but whether or not they're given that information about enrolling in the app is something that I will check on. Right. So let's look really quickly and see, it's not very long, why were field trips not being tracked. So what I believe has happened here, I looked back and we had some early football trips with band and other trips that were taking place, and they were tracked, and then we had a breakdown where they were not tracked. And what seemed to me to be happening, we try to send our students out in the newest buses. So when we had drivers that switched from their regular route bus to a trip bus, they scanned in, but for some reason they were not scanning students the way that they did on their own bus, and I'm not really sure why that happened, but we've talked about it. I've met with all of the drivers and anyone that drives a bus for us. Then if we have someone that comes in and subs Mr. Hopper, then I've given them a way that they can, even if they don't have a badge, we have it set up so that they can log into the system. Anytime we have a student that is on a bus, they need to be scanning so that we are tracking, we know where they are for parents as well as for safety. Another thing that talking about broken tracking equipment. So we had some issues early on with our littles. Their tag that they use for breakfast is made onto one of the cards that has an RFID chip. And we were using a plastic zip tie and putting it onto their backpack. Well, the backpacks were bigger than they were. So when they were holding their backpack and trying to get it close enough to the scanner for it to scan, they were hanging the arm straps and ripping, and the plug that attaches to the board inside the scanner had come loose. We have about 15 of them that were down. NFT has brought us 10 additional, and I am waiting for them to receive some that are hardwired so that they don't unplug like the way that we unplug our cell phones when we charge. They're getting some that are hardwired so that they don't come unplugged to eliminate that. And we also purchased some retractable lanyards that have the card on it so that kids can pull it out and scan. When I have been on a route subbing, I am seeing just kids, I mean, they're on it. They're scanning. And when I look at the information, I am seeing really good information that's coming in, that we know where our kids are, we know how many students are riding. That's how we were able to get that number that was almost 1,700 and know who is riding, because we are getting that feedback. It's not yet perfect, but we're on the road to that. We have why do notifications not work? So about a week and a half ago, I received a report, and I believe that one of our staff members also, their student app just started reporting to them in the middle of the day that about the arrival time, and just like every minute they were getting an update. So NFT was contacted. They determined that there was a bug, and they took down the notification piece, and they are working to resolve the issue. So we should know from them what is going on with that when I speak with them later this week. And this is a little rundown of what was sent, the email to those who completed the survey. And they were invited, if they were having any kind of difficulty, that they could come in, that we would provide a translator, that we would walk them through anything. And I would love to be able to do that as well. I have some parents that have come in. I had a parent that, interestingly, of a senior that came in on Friday because their child did not come home. And we were able to look up and see your child scanned on the bus, your child scanned off the bus, and what time and where they got off the bus. And encourage them to go ahead and download the app, and they would be able to look that up and see it, though we were happy to provide it as well. I think that that's about all that I have, unless there's a specific question that I can help you with, or go back and find more information to provide.
But the other thing that got brought up, and I guess I need to ask, is when we did this, we were told that, this would be labor saving. But everything I'm hearing, it sounds like it's taking a lot of labor just tracking it.
It does. I think that there are two different pieces that go into that. For the reporting piece that goes with our funding, it will assist us for safety and communicating with a campus that they can look quickly. But with all of the information, with getting additional information, there is additional labor that goes into it, and providing timely information and callback. It would be very helpful if we had some assistance the way that we had last year, so that we could provide better service.
Are the cards being taken care of, or are the kids losing cards?
I want to say that losing cards is probably a little bit bigger of a concern, and I base that on seeing reports like an exception report that I see when a student scans and it has a red flag that tells me it recognizes the student. So when I look to see why they have an exception, they're using one of their previous cards. So I think maybe losing a card, finding a card, switching out cards. So we have some of those things which take some time as well. So I think the more our kids get used to using and keeping up with, and that their badge is required, and I know that they're enforcing that at school and requiring that they have a badge, then the better we become when we're all on the same page.
And when they don't have the badge?
When they don't have the badge, anybody comes to school in the morning regardless. Beginning November the 1st, we started making a list daily and having a special couple of seats that we seat students in right behind the driver, so that we can get their information and communicate that back to the campuses in the cases of the high school and middle school, because those badges are made in the library, and to the campus through child nutrition for the primary and the elementary, because they use that badge as a dual use that's on their backpack.
Are them, when the cafeteria gets through them badges, are they complete?
No. So when the cafeteria finishes with they print the badge and then they bring it over to me so that I scan it into the system, the new RFID code, and then it goes back to child nutrition to go to the campus.
Okay. No other questions? Thank you.
You bet.
All right. We're going to go to, we're going to skip to item number 15, executive. We're going to go to executive session for 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, 551.076, 551.02, 8082, 551.0821 at 8:56. Yeah, that's fine.